Yes. Hello, brother. Hi.
Hey.
After a long time we are meeting. So, we have a few questions on MLOPS program. So, today we are going to have a discussion related to this. And I hope these questions are from the student side. So, whenever they are inquiring on this program, they are asking us these questions. We chit-chatting regarding these questions to make them to understand what regarding about this program and for whom this program is designed and what they need to be understanding. Okay. And so the first one, like, what is envelopes weather and why should a student care now? Because the market is growing now, right? I listened about DevOps but you came up with envelopes and even it's new for me, like to listen that word from last 1 year. So what exactly this envelopes was?
Yes, brother. So basically, MLOps is something, DevOps is there for software engineering. And when it comes to the model development, we have MLOps basically. So it's a replacement of DevOps when it comes to machine learning. You can say that. That's a
Okay.
simple definition, but why it exists? So basically, software engineering is kind of a process where you develop a software and then you continuously deliver that software reliably to the customer. And then DevOps helps that software to continuously get developed, tested, and being delivered to the customer in a reliable manner. And same thing, same kind of challenges the companies are facing who try to develop artificial intelligence or machine learning models. Right, machine learning developments are typically slightly complicated than typical software development because it has a little extra complexity more than what software has. You have to consider the data, you have to consider the model, and you have to continuously evaluate how the model is performing after it's being developed and trained. So basically there has to be a continuous process that company has to follow, and it need a lot of automation. Right, basically you have a model that is trained by using a particular data. You want to make sure that the data is tracked, the model is tracked, it is versioned, stored in a proper manner, and then tested, and finally, reliably, it is deployed to your infrastructure, right? There has to be a operation complexity that would come in for the company who develop the AI ML models. So that is where MLOps comes in. We try to do a lot of automations to make sure that the whole ML development process is as much as simple as possible. That's the idea.
See, is there any existing models or like we are going to develop the models according to the company's requirement?
So MLOps do not focus too much on developing the models. Typically, that would be the work done by the developers. Just like we have software engineering team, we will also have a machine learning team. They are mostly responsible for developing the model, and many models are also available online. There are many libraries available that a developer can use, and they can train that libraries or models with the data set what they have. So development is a whole different process, and MLOps focus only on the operation part of machine learning development. So what that it also means, you don't need to be a developer to learn MLOps. If you have enough understanding about how operations work, how deployment works, how monitoring works, and different. If you have some basics about DevOps process, those people can also transition to MLOps. And it's also advisable that the people who come from the machine learning development also have a good idea about what MLOps is if they want to develop proper machine learnings at scale. So yeah, that's the overall idea.
And is this models are open source models, brother? The existing models.
There are many open source models available. So there are reasons for companies to develop their own model. For example, a company that they want to develop an internal AI system for their internal purpose. It could be for sales operations, or it could be for marketing purpose. So there would be need for the companies to develop their own model, but actually machine learning is getting very much matured, and many of models are available as an open source. And what many companies are doing today, they just take many of those libraries and train them using their data set to develop their own customized AI models. So yeah, we have generic options available. There are open source support, and it's actually getting very much matured also as we speak.
And what was the difference between this MLOps and AIOps, whether like we are calling like DevOps and now MLOps, and now another word is I mean like AIOps. So what was the difference for this?
So MLOps is the actual word. I mean, there are slight
Okay.
confusions, right? And many people believe AIOps and MLOps are same. So MLOps is the actual process that helps you manage the operation of a model's development, right? So the term AIOps is completely different. So it's basically whatever operation activity that you want to do, get help from AI. Right? So for example, you want to do a deployment, and instead of humans performing the deployment, use your AI to do that deployment. Or it could be deployment, or it could be building a pipeline, or it could be anything. Use AI for that. So that's exactly what the actual
Okay.
meaning of AI ops. I
Okay.
believe there is a very good misconceptions that AI ops means managing the AI operations. No, that is MLOps.
Okay. Okay. So because a lot of confusion was there, like in Google also when I was searching about MLOps, there was an word like AIOps is also coming. So I was a little bit confused. And also like how much different is from DevOps, the MLOps practice, and why that matters for the existing professionals to look at.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting question actually, because yeah, many people consider DevOps and MLOps has a lot of similarity, and that's true actually. They are similar in many ways. DevOps is all about making sure that your software is continuously and reliably delivered to the customer, and that's exactly what MLOps does: continuously and reliably deliver your machine learning and AI models to the customer. So the difference comes when it comes to the technical complexity. So you can say the machine learning process altogether is not as quite simple as the software development. It has, you actually need to worry about something extra. Let's say you need to worry about the data that is used for training the models. Typically, when it comes to the software development, you worry about the code too much, not too much about training and other stuff, right? This is one extra layer that would come on top of DevOps. But otherwise, when you think about the roles and responsibilities of an MLOps engineer and DevOps engineer, you would actually find a lot of things common and many tools that are shared between the teams. For example, many tools that we use in DevOps, right? It could be monitoring tool, deployment tools, or pipelining tools. They can also be used in machine learning or MLOps. But there are certain use cases where the rule might not fit very well. And in that case, you might want to find technology that would actually suit the machine learning requirement. For example, you might want to revision your data, just like when it comes to machine learning, there would be a need for you to revision the data that was used for training your models. That is, doesn't exist in DevOps. And then similarly, there would be need for you to track a lot of things, your model data. There should be a proper tracking that needs to be in place, which was not a major problem when we considered software engineering. So slightly technical complexities would add up when it comes to machine learning, but otherwise there's a very strong similarity, and culture wise it's very, very similar. DevOps and MLOps are technically, there can be slight differences.
Like, now, see, for example, uh, is DevOps engineers are going to change into MLOps designation, or there'll be DevOps engineers along with MLOps engineers also, right? Both will be there, or this existing DevOps engineers is going to become MLOps engineer in future. So, how
Typically,
exactly?
yeah. Actually, a DevOps engineer to a MLOps transition is a very good profile. And
Okay.
typically, in most of the company, they maintain separate teams. Right? For software engineering, they will have one separate team, and when it comes to the machine learning, they generally maintain a separate team. So the chances are common, maybe in startup or in the beginner level project. There's a very strong chance that your same team would be working on both DevOps and MLOps at the same time, depending on the company's requirement. But for a larger project, which typically in many companies, right, are starting to develop the machine learning and AI models. So there is a separate team that they form specifically for the machine learning related operations. So yeah, exactly. There would be, and for the people who want to transition from DevOps to MLOps, it's kind of a very straightforward process. Only
Exactly.
thing what they are lacking, right? If you are already working as a DevOps engineer, you already know how the software process works and how the delivery works, how the monitoring works, and you have a lot of knowledge what you really need to manage the machine learning operations. What you lack is certain parts. You need to have a basic understanding about machine learning, how exactly machine learning works and how it is different than the traditional software development. You don't really need to know the coding or anything, but yeah, if you have a little bit of coding, that's always good. Basically, you need to understand the difference between a software engineering and machine learning model developments. That is important. And once you learn that, it is pretty easy to learn, and a transition you would be very smooth, right? And it's a good point thing to transfer also, right? Basically, in DevOps, there are some challenges. DevOps has matured a lot in the last
Yes.
10, 15 years, right? A lot of maturity came in. And, now 10 years before, there were 10 people managing the DevOps operations in one team. And now they need just two people or maybe one. Or many companies are actually kind of configuring things in such a way that in the platforms are completely developer friendly and developer can themselves do most of the stuff. So MLOps is not yet matured. It's actually even a lot of tools and technologies are yet to come. Basically, when it comes to the machine learning tracking, we still have a challenge. Whatever existing tools we require a little extra configurations and stuff. So there has to be a lot of maturity that has to come. Maybe in the next 5-10 years, I expect that would come. But at this point of time, the people who want to switch to MLOps, it might be a very good switch considering you get all the benefits of an early startup. Right now, companies don't find a lot of people who are experts in MLOps, right? So if they want to hire somebody, it's too difficult, right? And
True,
so
true.
that chance we have at this
Yes.
time in MLOps.
I still remember, brother, like in 2016, when we came up with an idea, created a curriculum for DevOps. That time I have asked you this question, right? So that wasn't very early, actually, too early for the DevOps. And then you came up with a curriculum and no, let's get started with DevOps because this is what the future is. And then on that day, I felt like, okay, this is much advanced and people are not even inquiring for anything on DevOps side. And how can you come up with this curriculum just to do the market? The point is that slowly, DevOps become very much complicated. And even for last 4 years, so it's become very much a lot of changes. Even in our curriculum side also, we have changed almost 6 to 7 times the curriculum that updated many times. And last curriculum was the cloud native curriculum. That was the most advanced curriculum still at the market. That we know almost. So now that's what is clear. So I have a quick question, brother. In cloud native also, we've been covering the Grafana and Prometheus too. Even in the MLOps, we have the same kind of Grafana and Prometheus. So what exactly like those? I mean, those tools implemented with the machine learning modules, or other tools are lagging behind in implementing the machine learning models. So what exactly? Why those tools only are become ML models? Why? What exactly?
So basically, one advantage with the Grafana and Prometheus or a similar monitoring tool is that they are highly customizable. Basically, if you could produce, typically the monitoring works in such a way that you need to collect a lot of data and then aggregate the data in one place and then use that data to generate various monitoring reports, right? The Prometheus and Grafana tools like that, they are developed keeping those concepts in mind, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what exactly you are monitoring. You can always figure out a way to find the data and export the data and collect that data in these tools and then use them for visualization. So when it comes to monitoring, you would not find a lot of changes compared to DevOps or MLOps. I mean, you will actually see a lot of tools being shared between both of them. And yes, there would be differences. There would be tiny differences the way how you generate those matrices or the monitoring data. So that part might be straight. So when it comes to machine learning, there would be some extra things you want to monitor the performance of the model after it is trained with a particular data set. And then, there would be different parameters that you might want to monitor as well. So there are few things. Only thing that change is what you want to monitor. So whatever you monitor, typically, like when you think about a server where the model is running, you obviously want to monitor all the system wide matrices, CPU, memory, and all those other things. Then application specific or model specific monitoring also needs to be done. But when it comes to the monitoring architecture, it's more or less the same. So, except the kind of data that we need to produce for monitoring. So that's why you would find not just Prometheus and Grafana, you would actually find a lot of tools, monitoring tools being shared between DevOps and MLOps.
And is this MLOps is good for other technology people like coming from any other background, like not just a DevOps engineer, maybe a kind of developer or data science or data analyst or some other background or operations or any other background. Is it fine for them to get into MLOps?
So there are some backgrounds that get a slightly bigger benefit compared to the other backgrounds. Let's say if somebody is already working on DevOps, they know the operations very well and they know the expectations that they have, how the automation helps the software projects or machine learning projects. They already possess that knowledge. So basically, for them, it's all technical, right? And so for them, just it's very easy to make a transition from DevOps to MLOps, and also the people come from the data science or data background. For them also, they are very much familiar with the data, and most of them would also have a basic understanding about machine learning. I mean, the people are coming from the data, and now machine learning is also becoming a very important topic within data science, right? So the people who come from the data background also would benefit a lot because they understand how the data, especially those who understand how the data pipeline works and how to extract the clean data that can be used for training the model. For them, it would be much relatable. And actually, I would say for them, it is a necessary transition, right? Data science, MLOps, machine learning is just a part of data science for years. But today, things have changed a lot, right? Most of the company, even small companies, are building the machine learning models with the data what they have, right? And then use them for many internal purposes or sometimes for serving their customers. So, so basically, machine learning has become an integral part of data science today. So I would say the people coming from the data background, it is rather than the complexity, it is a necessity, right? And
Okay.
they also get the advantage of working in the background, which is related to data science, right? And that's good thing. And people coming from other backgrounds, for example, somebody working in machine learning, they also get a lot of benefits because they are the ones facing these operational issues, right? And for them, it is a perfect whether they want to completely switch to MLOps or they just want to stay in machine learning and then also understand the best way to work in machine learning. They can also easily get a lot of new concepts and how to manage the operations better. And even for them, it's an easy transition or it is just a knowledge upgrade for the people who are already in machine learning. And then those who are coming from other background, right? It could be support background or software background. I mean, they would have to prepare a little bit. I mean, machine learning, MLOps expects a certain level of knowledge when it comes to machine learning. I mean, they need to understand what is machine learning. I mean, they don't need to be an expert there. They just need to at least try a model for themselves, train a model with some data. I mean, basically, the curriculum what we are delivering, we actually have all those things covered in the prerequisites. We spend first 2 to 3 weeks only on covering the basics, right? So whoever joins our training, they actually go through understanding of machine learning, not too much into Python, but we use Python to demonstrate the machine learning models, certain Python libraries we are using, but they don't need to be an expert in Python. If they have very basic programming skills, that will do because they're not going to do any coding, right? So they can get started in the first 2 to 3 weeks, understand what a machine learning model is, try a model, train the model with some data, try to track the model, version it, and all those basics they will learn in the initially. And usually the people coming from software engineering background, many things they can relate. Basically, they can relate. It's software engineering is all about coding a software to a level where customers find some efficient use of it, right? So similar to the model, AI models are also the same concept. They would be able to find a lot of similarity. At the same time, they would understand that there would be an upskilling that they need to do, which we try to cover ourselves in the first couple of weeks, and they would be ready, kind of ready to go to
Yes,
the next level after the first 3 weeks of training. So that is how we plan things.
so, and also what kind of skills they should know before moving for MLOps? Whether like is this let's be discussed on Python side, basic Python,
Right.
and is any other skills they are required to get into the MLOps?
So they should understand it's a good idea to have some Python basic level knowledge, because if you don't have that, I would strongly suggest that you just start with Python. And there are a lot of materials available today. I try to understand how Python libraries and modules works, and basically the basic syntax and other things. If you have a knowledge, that would be helpful. Then most importantly, you should learn what is machine learning in general, or AI in general, what is artificial intelligence, and how where we are moving. They should also get some insight about the industry, right? Now many people consider AI is something that they don't understand. I mean, everyone understands AI, but when it comes to a career transition, a lot of people consider, is it a good time to transition to AI yet? But the truth is that, now what is happening in most of the companies, that most of the companies are developing models themselves internally, and a lot of changes are happening. So basically, they need to understand how the industry is working and where things are moving. Maybe they can take some conference, try to understand, and then also understand the basic algorithms of machine learning. I mean, not mandatory, I would say, because you are not the one. If you are planning to transition your career to MLOps, you are not expected to know a lot of development, right? You have a separate team for that, and they take care of the development. You focus on the operations, but at the same time, it would be a very good idea if they understand what are the common algorithms that are available for machine learning and how they work theoretically. I mean, it's not has to be very practical, but theoretically. And then, yeah, those are the main basic things. Python, then basics of Python, understanding of machine learning models, and most importantly, the understanding about the industry, right? They are transitioning their career, where this industry is actually going.
And like next question is about the career path. How do they know if MLOps is the right career path for them? So how they have to get decided on that part? I mean, is this different or based upon the work that they're doing, right?
Right. So if MLOps is right for you, I mean, it's a tricky question, and mostly that answer would vary from one individual to another. Let's say one thing I would consider is your current work, right? If you are working in DevOps, data science related projects, or machine learning related work, then probably MLOps is rather a necessity rather than just, a career option. And then for others who want to transition to MLOps, I mean, right, you should think about these things. I mean, MLOps, machine learning is comparatively a bit complicated compared to software development, but it's not something that is too difficult to understand, right? That is one misconception that many people have today, and that is actually stopping many people to transition their career to AI. I mean, they use AI in their work, but transitioning entirely to AI is, not many people are not considering right now. So in my opinion is that, if you have the enthusiasm, or if you are interested, if you like this AI, right, then there is nothing that's going to stop you from learning AI, because today we have the resources available publicly on internet, and getting started is not a difficult thing. Typically, once you learned certain machine learning models, or found some sample project, or tried a simple project yourself, that is when you realize that, it's not that much complicated what you think it is. And many people are very much interested in coding. So there are two types of profiles. There is development and there is operations. So our specific course, what we are delivering, it focus on operations, right? It's MLOps. So I have seen many people discussing. I mean, we witnessed this situation a lot, right? When they don't want to get into coding and they want to get into operations, and again, doesn't mean that operations is so simple. It's just that they don't like to do the coding. That's what I have seen a lot. So basically, you use a lot of technologies, tools, and you improve a lot of things in your company, right? It's more like you are transitioning a culture. If you feel that is something you would like to do, right? Probably this is one good career for you. You would be doing a lot of automations, improving the company's delivery process continuously. And, basically, most of the companies are in a race, right? They want to beat one another. I mean, because AI is somewhere in the very beginning state, and, everyone is in the race, and MLOps people has a lot to do, right? So from that perspective, this is going to be a very critical role for many people. So there are things to learn. There are things to learn, technical things, what I talked about. But for any software engineer who want to transform, anyone working in any IT field, I would say, want to transform to AI or MLOps, it's not such a difficult job. But again, it depends on the interest. Some people want to do the coding, and when it comes to MLOps, we don't do a lot of coding. So the people who should very much interested in coding, they might consider moving themselves to, let's say, machine learning or Gen AI, or there are different development work, right? Development jobs that are available in many companies. So it would be a personal preference, as well as, yeah, 3 months of learning. I mean, I would say there would be, you might work on some large projects if you want to get used to MLOps, right? Even if you are somebody who is coming from DevOps background, MLOps is different. So unless you work on some big project, you don't clearly understand how exactly MLOps work. So consider 3 4 months time. That would actually make you, irrespective of your background, would actually make you an expert in basically. So it's a mix of personal preference and what we have.
True, true, true. And, it's like DevOps have multiple roles, like DevOps SRE, DevOps lead, DevOps engineer. There are multiple roles. The MLOps also has that multiple kind of roles.
As of now, DevOps is everywhere, even
Yes.
from small companies to big company. DevOps is everywhere. So MLOps, I don't see multiple teams being formed in many companies in the earlier stages of the development, but there are definitely parts. There could be teams, right, in the future, or maybe many companies are already making that organizational structure. If they are already facing these complexities, right? I mean, many companies are actually facing these complexities. So there would be different roles. One role related to tracking the models, and another one related to the pipeline management, CI/CD, or pipeline management, and then SRE, where you, right, evaluate the model and also monitor them and continuously ensure its quality, and right. So basically, yes, I mean, it's just like DevOps, you can say, and you can kind of find different teams working, but it's not in every company. In most of the company, it's a single team today, as of now, most of the projects. But those companies are already doing big. They have very large model, and they have millions of parameters, right? To manage those models, I mean, you need a lot of people. You need a big operations team, and forming 100 people team might be a very bad idea. So that is when organizations start to split the teams, and that's also happened.
And coming to the salary side, what was the range of salaries this DevOps people, I mean, the professionals they get?
So basically, a salary, as we always tell, even when they join for
Yes.
DevOps, it's all about the market demands. Basically, what market needs and what is there for them to get. Right now, the situation in MLOps is that there's a huge requirement for the companies who want to develop the AI models, which most of the companies are either developing or considering to develop. So there is a need for a lot of MLOps engineer, and there doesn't exist a lot of them, right? So
Yes.
typically, the salary what MLOps engineer get is much more than a typical DevOps engineer or any mature industry gets, right? This industry is going to grow or going to get a benefit from that early starting stuff. So in general, I mean, typically once you have the experience in any IT, what we tell the students is that you just start with MLOps and don't worry about your first job salary. You just work for 1 year, and IT is completely different, right? I mean, once you transition to IT, the salary what you may be gaining would be comparable with other industry or maybe less than other industries. But after 2 year or 3 year, it's a completely different story. I mean, you might grow. There are people who grow 10x, right? If they are working in the industry, which is very niche and very difficult to get the people. So MLOps is such an industry, right? That's where that beauty will come in. And if you remember DevOps, when the people we trained 10 years before,
Multiple
6, 7
students.
years before, right? So even with the people who has less than 5 year experience, we know people who got more than 30 lakhs, right? After they completed their training. Because at that time, DevOps was kind of, people needed DevOps very much and there was no people available. Typically, once you have 3 or 4 offer in your hand, it's, usually I tell them, don't worry about salary. Salary would definitely come. If not
Yes.
today, I mean, 5 years from now, it's going to be, I mean, if you know how to play things well, right? That's also important, right? Many people who try to aggressively look for job, they just usually be happy with salary what they get in their first offer. But typically, what we suggest everyone is to don't so aggressively look for job. Right? Just keep taking the interview, clear 5 or 6 of them, and then have the ability to make a decision from your side. I mean, get the control to yourself rather than giving the control to the company who is hiring you. So then you get to negotiate the salary. I mean, it's more important than salary. You get to choose the job that you want. So typically, when it comes to salary, and I would say if you are transitioning to MLOps, don't worry about it. Right? It's
Yes.
completely, yeah. It's a big demand is going to come. It's there still, but in the next couple of years, it's going to increase exponentially because a lot of right DeepSeek came and
Yes.
recently, and then there are a lot of platforms today that helps companies develop internal AI platforms, and that's why most of the companies are in hurry to build them, right? And obviously, if they are building it, they need people to manage their operations, and it's
Yes.
going to be a very quick exponential growth that we are going to see compared to any other industry today.
DeepSeek came in, the word came now, so I want to ask the question like ChatGPT or DeepSeek for you. Which one you choose?
So
I
basically,
personally go with DeepSeek because DeepSeek is, I mean, like now it is like little slow, but the
yeah,
waiting answer is too much fast, like very clear actually compared to ChatGPT.
yeah, for me, it's like both, I would say.
Yes,
But DeepSeek is very much immersive. I mean,
yes, yes.
I'm getting the kind of
Well,
prompt
like
you want.
see, the kind of answer it's giving is a little bit more deep and depth oriented. So I felt that, so that's very. But yeah, keeping aside, like other thing is like I just want to know like what kind of experiences that works. I mean, is it fresher can apply for MLOps or 5 years guy or 9 years guy or 15 years guy? What kind of experience that was for MLOps to get into the MLOps?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. So basically, it's anyone can transition. For freshers, it would be a lot of work. So basically, but anyway, the freshers can start at AI anytime today because it is just like starting with the software engineering. I mean, there are many people who, instead of many freshers who prefer to start in the machine learning or AI instead of going with this option, software engineering, right? The reason is that you can learn machine learning and artificial intelligence with a slightly more effort than learning the software engineering, right? You need to have knowledge on one programming language. Then, in addition to that, you need to understand certain existing libraries. You need to have a basic understanding about machine learning models and also some libraries in Python, which are available today in the market. And no, it's easy to learn them. There are many resources available today in YouTube. There are many resources, and in Udemy, or there are various platforms available today. And some fresher want to start. with a machine learning or AI, it's not very difficult thing to do, right? As we think,
Yeah,
but still,
because the engineering colleges also they are adopting this kind
yeah, yeah,
because
right. And
they are directly
most,
coming with some kind of basic knowledge on
yeah,
AI
no,
and ML. I mean
and they are
this.
developing the models. Actually, they are
Yes, they are.
developing very matured
Yes,
models. Last
exactly.
time there was a news, basically a model that will understand how to coordinate the school assembly, and it was developed by a kid, I think, from plus two, developed it. So it can understand the assembly, it can interact with the students, and based on the instructions, it can also accept custom instructions if required, and it can conduct an assembly.
Okay.
So it's not very difficult thing to do today because of lots of technology enhancement that we have and all these new frameworks, easy to work frameworks coming in, and you don't need a lot of coding skills today because basically for the last, not just today, I mean even for the last for 5 years, people are mostly using copilots and many other coding tools to do the coding, right? You don't really need necessarily do all the coding. There are AI tools available for that. So yeah, basically it's easy. But one thing that a fresher need to consider is that it's not as easy as you transition to the software development. It need little extra efforts. So can our course fit a fresher? I mean, actually it can. So basically we teach them from the basics. They need to have some Python basics, I would say, because or any programming language basics, so that they would be able to understand what we are trying to explain and be able to learn them. And if they have that, whatever else they require, we teach them. We cover them from scratch, and it's not a big deal. And the people who are already working in the industry, it could be 1 year, 2 year, or three, doesn't matter. It could be 10 years. For them to take this course, they would definitely get that advantage, right? So they already understand how software industry works, even, right? It doesn't matter which team you are working. It could be, you could be a quality engineer or support engineer, Linux admin, doesn't matter. You understand how what are the roles and responsibilities, how a software works, how a software to be deployed, at least even if not the technical details, I mean, you understand what each team are doing, right? So that knowledge, that work maturity, if you have that, then everything else is just technical. So it's our course is built in such a way that whoever comes in, we welcome everyone. Whoever comes in, we provide them a core basic training for first 3 weeks that makes them pretty strong with the fundamentals. Before that, even the people who come from the experience background, still we ask them to take that prerequisites, because even though they are coming from an experience, I mean, they will not have all the experience
Right. Exactly.
that are required for the foundation, right? There would be, you need to understand machine learning basics. You need to understand how the tracking works and how do you version your models and stuff like that. And how do you run your models on a server, on a cloud? So it is very, chances are very less that, everyone, even the people who are experienced, understand all these foundations. So we have a foundational course, which we ask everyone to take before they get into the big step where projects comes in. We then conduct advanced project based trainings after we completed the foundation. There are two projects that we are currently focusing. Both of them are advanced and real time like projects. So anyone can join. Basically, that's the idea. And the people who come from specific background, obviously, they always get that benefit.
And most of the people have a misconception that you should have an idea on mathematics, statistics, kind of knowledge. Is that critical to get into the envelopes or not?
They are important if you are going to be a developer.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let's say you want to develop a model. It's very important that how to understand various algorithms in machine learning. It's important to have some understanding on mathematics. But when it comes to MLOps, that is not necessary. MLOps engineers don't worry too much about how to develop the model, but rather how to run these models or how to operate these models. So mathematical and statistical skills are not necessary if you are transitioning to MLOps. But if you want to transition to other areas like AI or ML, those things become very important.
And in the beginning stage, what kind of mistakes that the students can do? And
Yeah, very, very important.
They struggle with that mistakes. Like say, for example, in DevOps, people used to struggle with some Linux basics,
Yeah,
networking concepts.
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. The
So,
basics.
and how here those people will be struggling with what kind of technical.
Yeah, most thing what I have seen, people trying to work on advanced stuff without covering the basic stuff, right? That's one mistake. Not only in MLOps, MLOps is it's especially complicated because there are a set of core foundation you should be very clear about, right? Why you need to understand the industry first of all. I mean, why AI is become so important today for most of the company, and why would companies want to develop these AI platforms, internal platforms, or for serving customer? Why do they want to develop them? And then, most importantly, the basics of machine learning and AI. So, so I have seen many people. I mean, they are already working as DevOps engineers, and they want to learn tools, advanced tools such as Kubeflow, right? So you can learn Kubeflow uh, only if, I mean, you can learn Kubeflow, the technical part, but you won't understand it if you don't understand how exactly the machine learning model works. So don't try to, even for DevOps also, we used to tell this to the students a lot, right? Don't just try to go and study a tool. It won't work that way. When it comes to operations, it never works that way. We need to understand the core problem what companies are facing and what is the actual problems you will be solving when you work as a MLOps engineer, and have a clear understanding about the problem first, and then have a clear understanding about what is the right solution to solve that problem. Companies would be facing the problem with accuracy, and many companies today, when it comes to machine learning, the problem what they are facing is they are not able to do this continuous training and tracking very conveniently. So the companies who can automate those stuff, right, training and tracking, if it could be automated, they can actually train 100 times over a day, while the other companies would be doing 1 or 2 or 3 times over a day, because the other company need to do a lot of manual efforts. So there will be a sort of understanding about why exactly we are doing this, and that is important. And don't try to learn any tools. Try to focus initially, always focus on the basics, why this all exists, and what is the significance of it, and those are the things you should ask yourself. Talk to your seniors, I mean, somebody who is working in AI. If you can get some advice, there are conferences that are happening all over the world about different AI stuff. Attend them, interact with other people, try to understand that key problems what industry is facing, and then start learning. I mean, then only your learning will come correct. If you don't have a clear understanding about what you want to do, you won't learn the right things. You'll always end up picking the wrong stuff and end up getting more and more confused as you learn more.
So for the practicing point is, I mean, same to the cloud platform, right? Any cloud we be using, right? So
Yeah,
is there any
typically
specific?
mostly cloud. Nowadays there are companies who want to use their internal platforms, but most of the companies are using cloud to develop and deploy their AML models. So in our case, we would be using cloud, Google or AWS or Azure, and that is where most of the, even if it is pipelines has to be in the cloud, or monitoring should be in the cloud. Deployment, yeah, surveys where you want to deploy production models, they should also be in the cloud. So mostly we are using cloud. So the people who take this course would actually eventually, even if they don't know how to work with the cloud, they would actually eventually learn it, not from scratch perspective, but basically the services, the important services that we use for machine learning in the cloud, they would be learning along. And you don't, even people don't need any cloud knowledge, right? We do all the labs. I mean, right, our trainings are always completely practical. We create the cloud account and get it activated and create the instances of machines or models or whatsoever practically, and they can also replicate it from their side. So without any cloud knowledge, they can still work in the cloud.
And the last question is, what sort of projects they are going to work without the equipment? How we design the projects? What they will.
What
And
sort of
of
project we are
course,
covering in this training?
correct.
Is that the
Exactly.
question? Yeah.
Yes, the
So
question is
basically, we are
how
focusing
advanced
on
that.
two major problems and solutions to those problems. So the first one is, how do you manage the life cycle of a machine learning model? So that is an important, I would say, the most important critical problem that most companies are facing today. They need a way to build a pipeline where this single workflow would be responsible for categorizing the data, taking the data, training the model, then storing the artifacts, right? After the models are trained, they produce some artifacts. We want to store them, then we want to deploy them, then we finally want to do some monitoring, and a lot of tracking needs to happen in the meantime. You need a lot of tools and technology for that. You need tools for data version controlling. You need tools for tracking the machine learning models, tools for storing and deployments and stuff. So we will be using a bunch of tools, and it's going to be a 1 month long training where the first 3 weeks is all about learning the tools and technologies, understanding the problem, and then the last 2 weeks we actually ask them to work on a project where they want to implement a proper continuous integration and continuous delivery in the machine learning models. So that is a very, very important project and a significant problem that the industry is facing today. They Most of the companies are developing the machine learning models, but they're not operating it correctly. So this project would actually help them understand how to really operate a model that you can do it 100 times over, right, per day. If you want to do the training and do the deployment and do the delivery to the customer, right, you can do it today. So how that whole automation process should come in, that would be one project. Then the other project, what they would be doing, again, it would be a 1 month long work. First 3 weeks they focus on learning, and last 2 weeks they work on a real-time project. So where we focus too much on the monitoring part, right? Once the model is developed. So when it comes to machine learning, a lot of things change over time. So usually in software engineering, this is not a big problem because software is predictable, right? Once we develop it, we know how the software is going to work in production. Of course, sometimes there can be issues, but typically we know how exactly software is going to function. But once you deployed a machine learning to production, machine learning model to production, it will change over time. So basically, in the user behavior change over time, the kind of data that the model was used to train over time, right? I mean, the knowledge what they have 6 months before is not probably very competent. I mean, now you can see ChatGPT is trained. Always there's the data what was used for training ChatGPT is at least 4 to 5 months old, or even DeepSeek. I'm not sure. I mean, right? So, but that's also going to improve because the data was used. Many people are actually facing the problem with ChatGPT because of this. If you think about it, you ask ChatGPT for any live information or weather information, it cannot give you the accurate data. You ask for stock information, it won't be able to produce the accurate data because, and many people don't consider this as a problem because they don't have another choice than ChatGPT, or they don't have a choice than
So
DeepSeek. But it is a real problem. It's a big problem. Whatever AI models that we use, it should be trained with the most recent data. Otherwise, it won't give you the accurate answer. A lot of things change, people mind change, data change, and the kind of business process change, sales change, marketing change. A lot of things change, and 6 months is a very long time. So monitoring the models and evaluating the models continuously would become very, very important. And most of the companies, especially if you're developing an internal platform, you are for your own company, right? That's what many companies are doing today to help their sales process, marketing process, and everything. They want their own model, and they cannot train that model with 6 months all data, especially for a startup. Things change every day. So monitoring would become very, very important, and evaluation become very, very important. And you want to continuously check if the model is working correctly, and models are available, it's reliable, and also it's how accurate it is, and a lot of parameters that you want to monitor continuously. And that is where the second project would come into picture. We use different monitoring tools and also machine learning evaluation tools to analyze the models and monitor the models for their availability, reliability, and many other things, and then continuously inform us about any possible issue. or provide a proper visualization about what's going on, right? On a graphical dashboard, you get to see everything. So this is one second project what we will be focusing on. This is the kind of a problem that we'll be solving, and that is the need for today, right? I mean, it's
True, true.
especially competitors become more, right? Many companies are developing AI models. They just want to make sure that their models are always performing and the best, right? So monitoring is very critical.
And we are going to hit them with a very clear on interview preparation part and resume building, all this part of the program as well, like previous programs. And that's all. And we'll be getting in touch again with the next episode with the technical part. Like we'll have some kind of technical discussion on our MLOps. So that episode will start again back in a few days. But as of now, this is the only thing which I have
Yeah,
questions.
it was nice, brother. It was nice to share the experience and everything. Yeah, yeah. I think we made some good
We
points also.
exactly.
Yeah, right.